You can make $10,000 per month as a complete beginner by turning your n8n workflows into SaaS applications, because most people aren't doing it yet. And in this video I will show you exactly how you can do that step by step, from creating the workflows with n8n to building a front-end interface with Lovable, then how to create a fully functioning backend and integrating Stripe payments into your app. So by the end of this video, you will have a fully functional SaaS application ready to go. So if that sounds interesting, let's dive right into it. Alright, the first thing that we have to do is to build the front-end interface of our app, which we're going to do with Lovable.dev, which is an AI app builder that allows us to build beautiful front-end UIs just by typing simple prompts in this text box over here. So to build our app's interface, I will simply come over here and type, I want to build an AI legal assistant app. The user should be able to input the question he has and select his country. Then the app is going to go and find the answer to his question. But then specifically the Lovable, to don't build any of the backend functions of it, because I'm going to build all of them with n8n. I just tell it to just focus on building a nice looking UI. It needs to be modern with nice sharp colors, just like this one. And now what I'm going to do is I will go over to Google and search for a nice looking UI, simply find one that I like. Let's say I like this one, for example, and then I will come over here and simply download it. And then I will come back over to n8n, click on attach, upload the file I just downloaded, and then come over here and click on enter. This way, Lovable has a visual example of exactly how we want the app to look like, making it way more likely to give us a good end result. So now, while Lovable is building the front-end interface of our app, we need to go over to n8n and start creating the most important part of this build, which is the backend interface of our app. So I went over to n8n and created a brand new workflow, and now the first thing that we have to do is to come and add in a trigger. So to do that, we have to come over here and click on add first step, and then we need to come over here and search for a webhook node. And the reason we're using a webhook is because a webhook will allow us to be able to transfer data from the front-end interface that we're building in Lovable to the backend automation that we're going to build over in n8n. And as you can see, we have a bunch of settings over here, but the only setting that we need to configure is over here the HTTP request, because what we need to do is to come over here and change this from get over to post, since that is the type of request Lovable is going to use in order for us to be able to send and receive data from that interface. So now all you have to do is to simply come over here and click on top of this link in order for you to copy it in your clipboard. And then we can come back over to Lovable, where as you can see, it just finished creating the front-end interface of our app. And I do gotta admit, this does look very good, and that is because we did give it a visual example, so we knew exactly what we were going for. But remember, we're not here to take a look at the design, we're here to connect this front-end interface with our backend automation in n8n. So to do that, we simply have to come over here in the Ask Lovable tab and say something like, send all the data that I input over here in this web URL, and then simply come over here and paste in the web URL you just copied, and then simply come over here and click on enter. And now all we have to do is to wait till Lovable goes and embeds this web URL inside our app. And boom, Lovable just finished embedding a web URL. So now it's time that we actually go and test this out. So let's say we're a user of our app and we have a legal question that we want answered. Now all we have to do is to simply come over here and say, for example, can I avoid showing up in court if my offense is a misdemeanor? Which I think is a question that a lot of people might have. And then all the user has to do is to simply come over here and select his country. Let's say he's from the United States. But before we come over here and click on Get Legal Insights, we first have to go back over in our n8n interface and click on Listen for Test Event. So our webhook is expecting to receive data, since we're currently using the test URL and not the production URL. So make sure you go and click on Listen for Test Event, and then you come back over to Lovable and click on Get Legal Insights. And boom, as you can see, our legal question has started being analyzed. And if we come back in our n8n interface, we can see that we do have an output over here, which means that we successfully managed to connect the front-end interface of our app that we built in Lovable with the backend automation that we're going to build now in n8n. And if I actually scroll all the way down here, we can see the exact information that we inputted inside a Lovable interface. So let me actually come over here and pin this data so I do not have to rerun this. And now, just so you guys understand what we're doing, the reason I chose to first build the Lovable interface and connect it with n8n is because now we have access to all of the schemas that we're going to have to use in the later nodes. Because if I actually build the n8n automation first, I would have to use a form trigger, and then I would basically have to go back in my automation and show up out all the different schemas. That's why when you're building an app like this, it's always best to first build a front-end interface and then to connect it with a webhook and then move on with building your n8n workflow. So now that we did that, it's time we actually go and we build the backend automation in n8n. Now the first thing that we need to do in order for us to get the answer to that legal question is to find official government websites that are likely to have the answer to the question that the user asked. Because we obviously don't want to just ask AI, because the user could go to ChatGPT and make that answer. Our app is going to be different because we will actually find the official government websites that have the exact answer that we're looking for, and then we're going to scrape these websites and retrieve the information that is inside them, which means that our answers are going to be 100% accurate and not like 70 or 80% accurate just because we asked an outdated LLM model. So now, the first thing that we need to do is to find government websites that are likely to have the answer to our question. And we're going to do that by coming over here and searching for a basic LLM chain. And the reason we're using a basic LLM chain and not a simple LLM is because we're going to use an output parser, but you will see why in a bit. For now, let's first configure this node. Now the first thing that we need to do is to come over here and change this from connect to chat trigger node to define below. And then over here in the user message, what we need to do is to turn this into an expression and open this up. And this is the place where we basically need to tell our LLM model exactly what we wanted to do. So for our app, I will come over here and say, this is my question. And then I will scroll all the way down here in my webhook to where I have the schema that includes the exact question that we ask in our Lovable interface, and I will drag and drop it over here. So now our LLM model has access to that. Then I say, search the web for official government sources and websites that contain the answer to the question that the user asked, and return those websites as your answer. And then specifically repeat myself and I say, make sure you only give official government websites, since that's what we actually want. And then I'm basically tell it to just give me 2 websites. Obviously, if you want to scrape more websites, you can come over here, say 3, 4. But for our example, I will leave this on 2. Now we can simply close this off, and it's time we go and add in our LLM model. For which to do, we need to come over here and click on the plus icon in the bottom of our page, and then we need to search for the LLM model that we're going to use. I will personally choose to go with OpenAI. Now the first thing that you need to do over here is to come and select your OpenAI credentials. If you do not have credentials, simply come over here, click on create new credentials, and then you need to come over here and input your API key, which you can find by going over to openai.platform/API keys, and then navigating over here to the create a new secret key section. Then simply type in the name of your key. I will say API key, and then you simply have to come over here, click on create secret key, and boom, this is your brand new API key. So all you have to do now is to simply come over here and copy it, and then you can come back over to n8n and simply come over here and paste it in, and then come over here and click on save, and boom, your credentials were successfully created. So now we can close this off. And then, for the model, what you need to do is to come over here and change the model to a model that has the ability to search the web. For which to find, you need to simply come over here and type in the word search, because the model that you need to choose needs to have the word search in its name in order for it to have that function. Since if it doesn't, it will not actually be able to go and look up the web for actual government websites. And if it cannot do that, it will more than likely give you outdated links that error constantly and they basically have no information inside them. That's why it's super important to actually give this access to a search model. You can obviously choose any of these models. Now for this example, I would personally choose to go with GPT-5 Search API, and then you can come over here and close this off. And now the last thing that we need to do with our basic LLM chain is to open it up and then come over here and require a specific output format. Because what this does is it opens up this brand new option over here, which is called an output parser. And what an output parser enables us to do is to basically tell our LLM model exactly how we want it to output data. And just so you understand this, if I come over here, I have 3 different output parsers. Now for the vast majority of the time, you're only going to need to use the simplest one, which is a structured output parser, which is the one that we're going to use in this video. So simply come over here and select it. And then this interface is going to open up, where we can see this very small snippet of code. Now this is the part where everyone starts to lose their mind. They're like, oh my god, Damian, this is so technical, I cannot actually code, I can do this. Well, don't worry guys, you will not have to write any code yourself. All you have to do is simply come over here, delete this short snippet of code, and then type this. Now if you're wondering how I came up with this, I basically went over to ChatGPT, told it exactly what I want my LLM to give me, and it gave me this snippet of JSON. Now to copy this, you can simply pause the video, take a screenshot of this, give it over to ChatGPT, and it's going to give you this text, or you can simply click the link in my description and join the school community in which I have all my assets inside, which is going to include the JSON file for this full automation along with this snippet of code as well. So now that we have added this, we can finally close this off and we can come over here and execute this basic LLM chain. And boom, this just finished executing. So now if I open this up, we can see the exact two websites over here, which are both official government websites, as you can see from these link URLs, which means that we successfully managed to do this step. Now the next step is to crawl these websites in order for us to be able to retrieve all the information that we need from inside them, and then based on that information create a proper response and send it back over in our Lovable interface. And to do that, we'll need to come over here and use an AI agent. Now the first thing that we need to do in this interface is to come over here and change the source for prompt from connect to chat trigger node to define below, and then over here in the user message, what I'm going to do is I will turn this into an expression and open this up so you guys can take a better look at it, and then I need to come over here and type in the prompt, basically explaining to the AI agent exactly what it needs to be doing. So for our example, I will come over here and type, this is the user's question. And what I'm going to do is I will open up my webhook, scroll all the way down to where we have the exact question that the user asked, and then drag and drop it over here. And then I say, and these are the websites that you should crawl. And what we also have to do now is to simply come over here, close off the webhook, and then take the two websites that we got from our basic LLM chain, simply drag and drop them over here. So our AI agent actually knows which websites we're referring to, and then you can go and crawl them. Because then I tell it, make sure you crawl them using the tablet tool, which is a tool that we're going to give it access to in a bit. And then I say, and based on this information, format a proper response that answers the user's question, and then I just tell it to make it a very short response, and that it needs to be 50 words maximum. Because when I was testing this out, I found that it gave very long answers that were more than 150 words, which is definitely something that we don't want it to do since they're a hassle to read. So that's why I came over here and told it to return me only 50-word answers. And now that we did that, all we have to do is to simply come over here and close this off, and it's time we go and add in a char model. Now what you can do is to simply come over here, take the char model that you have and connect it over here with this OpenAI model, or if you don't want to do that, you can simply come over here and add in a separate LLM model, which is what I'm going to do, and I will again add in OpenAI. And for the model, I will leave this on GPT 4.1 mini, since we don't need to have a search function for this AI agent. And now it's time we actually go and we give it access to the tool that is going to use to crawl these websites and retrieve all the relevant information that it needs, which is going to be none other than the Tavli tool, which to find you need to come over here and search for Tavli. Now, there is a possibility that you're gonna come over here, search for Tavli, and you are not going to be able to find it, and that is because you need to enable the community nodes inside your n8n interface. Now how you can do that is by coming over here to the left of the page to where you see this admin panel, and then simply opening this up. Make sure you saved before though, so you don't lose all of your progress. And once you are inside the admin panel, then what you need to do is to come over here and click on Manage, scroll all the way down here and make sure that the verified community nodes option is turned on, and if it is not, make sure you actually turn it on, and then simply come over here and click on Save Changes. Now what this is going to do is it is going to restart your n8n, which is going to take around 1 or 2 minutes, and then once it is back up, you will be able to see all the community nodes, including Tavli, which is the community node that we're going to use in this example. So then make sure you simply come over here and you select it, and now this opens up all of these options. Now the first thing that you need to do is to come over here and select your Tavli credentials. Now if you do not have credentials, simply come over here and click on create new credential, and then you need to come over here and input your Tavli API key. Which to find, you need to go over to tavli.com, and just to make it easy for you, I have left a link for it in the description below, and then you need to come over here in the API key section, simply click on the plus icon, then name your API key. I will call it name for this example, and then come over here and click on create, and boom, this is going to generate a brand new API key. So all you have to do is simply come over here and copy it, and then you can come back over to n8n, simply paste it in over here, and then come over here and click on save, and boom, your credentials were successfully created, which means that you can come and select them from over here. Then on the tool description, make sure you leave this on set automatically, and on the resource, you need to come over here and change this from search to the crawl option, and we're making this change because we actually want to extract information from inside these websites, And if you're wondering what the difference with crawl and extract is, when we're crawling a website, we basically are going more in depth in the website and we're able to retrieve even more information than we would be able to if we just extracted some information. So that's the difference between the two. And since you want the most amount of information possible, we're going to come over here and select the crawl option. Then in operation, we'll leave this on URL. And then for the URLs, we'll simply fill those in with AI, since our AI agent has access to these URLs. And then we can finally come over here and close this off. Now we could come over here and execute this AI agent node, but I would strongly advise you to come over here and add in one more tool, which is going to be the think tool. And what this tool does is it basically tells the AI agent to pause and rethink of the response that it was going to give you, which does make it give you a better response. That's why I would always recommend you to use the think tool in any AI agent that you're building. And now we're basically done with this AI agent, which means that it's time we actually go and we execute it to see the response that it's going to give us. And boom, this just finished executing, which means that we can open this up and see the response that it gave us based on the government laws that is scraped. And we can see that it says that you generally must appear in court for a misdemeanor. However, under federal rule 43, you may waive your presence in certain proceedings like arraignment and plea with written consent, etc, etc. So we can see that it actually did give us a pretty good response, and it's also pretty short, exactly as we wanted. So now what we have to do is to simply return the response back in our Lovable interface. Now to do that, we need to come over here and search for the response to webhook node, because this node allows us to return the response that we have back into our initial webhook URL, which is, of course, inside our Lovable interface. So I will not make any change over here, and I will leave the response with to fetch incoming item. But the change that I actually need to make is I need to come over here and open up my initial webhook, because I need to come over here in the response parameter. It changes from immediately to using a response to webhook node, because if we do not make this change, then the response to webhook node is not going to work. Now, don't ask me why you have to configure this inside the webhook. I honestly have no idea, guys. You should honestly ask n8n that, but that's how it is. So make sure you actually go and make this change. And we need to do one more step before we're able to send this response back in our Lovable interface, which is to come back over to Lovable and tell it that it needs to expect to receive a response, and to also create a section where it can display it, since Lovable right now is not actually looking for a response, which means that the webhook can actually send the response back into Lovable, but Lovable is not going to take it and display it in our interface. But that is only if we don't tell it to do that. So what I'm going to do is I will simply come over here and type, make sure you expect to receive a response from the webhook URL, and you create a section where you can display it. And then I will simply come over here and click on enter. So now Lovable is going to go and make that change for us. And the only other change that I want to make, because I actually forgot to do this at first, is I need to open up my basic LLM chain and also type in inside my prompt that the government websites need to be from this country, and then scroll down here in my webhook, find the country that the user inputted inside Lovable interface, and drag and drop it over here, because I had actually forgot to tell my LLM chain that, which means that it cannot actually go and find specific country's website, and more than likely it would just return us US websites, while maybe the user is actually from France, so you want to look at the French law and not the United States law. So make sure you go and make this change. And now that we did that, and Lovable also finished making the changes in our front-end interface, we can fully execute this workflow and see the response being returned back in our Lovable interface, which is what I'm going to do right now. And boom, this just finished executing, and as you can see, it says that it successfully sent the response back in our Lovable interface. And boom, if I come back over in my Lovable interface and I scroll down here, we can see the response that was generated inside n8n being displayed over here in our Lovable interface, which is pretty amazing, guys. Now, if you want access to the JSON for this full automation, along with access to all the Lovable prompts that I used to build this very nice looking front-end interface, you can click the link in the description and join my school community, where I will have all these assets inside. And now it's time where I show you how we can take this app and turn it into an actual SaaS by building a functioning backend where we can store our users' information, and also how we can integrate payments with Stripe inside our app, so every time somebody wants to use it, they first have to pay a fee and then they can use it normally. So let's start with the first thing, which is creating our backend. Now to do that, we simply have to come over here and click on the cloud icon, which gives us this option. And as you can see, it tells us that if we enable the cloud, we're going to have a built-in backend, and we're also going to be able to add an LLM in our app, which we don't really need to do, we just need the built-in backend function. So to do that, we simply have to come over here and click on Enable Cloud, and now Lovable is going to start enabling the cloud function for us. And boom, as you can see over here, Lovable basically tells us to allow it to go enable the cloud. So all we have to do is simply come over here, click on the allow button. And now that we allowed it access to do that, it's going to go and try to enable the backend of our app. And boom, as you can see, what this does is it opens up this interface over here, where we have an overview of all the backend functions, which as you can see are the database, our users, our storage, our edge functions, our AI, our secret keys, and our logs. But as you can see, all of these options are completely empty. And that's because of two reasons. Reason number one is because we haven't yet told Lovable to go and create these functions so then users can actually use them. And second is that nobody has actually used our app yet, which means that obviously no information is going to be inside the sections. So to change that, we need to come over here in the Ask Lovable tab and then come over here and type. I want you to go and enable the user authentication section and the database tables. And then simply come over here and click on Enter. And now as you can see, it is asking us if we allow it to go and perform these actions. So make sure you come over here and click on Allow. And boom, as you can see, Lovable just finished making the changes. And now we have a sign up section to which we can actually come over here and sign up for a brand new account. So let me actually go and do that. Let's say full name Damien. This is my email address. And then I'm going to come over here and input the password. And then I can come over here and click on sign up. And boom, as you can see now my account was created and now I can access the app. And if we navigate over here in the cloud section and we navigate over to users, we're able to see that we did in fact have a brand new user, which is me, since I just created an account. And then we can see that exact user over here. As you can see, here's my email address when I last signed up, my unique user ID when my account was created, and a bunch of other information like whether I have confirmed my email, my phone number, or my Google account. And if we don't want this user to be inside our app, we also have the option to delete this user from our app. So I think you guys saw how easy it was to create this functioning backend. And we can also navigate over here in the database if we want and take a look at the users' profiles. As you can see right now, it is blurred. And as you can see, we can basically access all the users' information over here as well, except the password, obviously, since the password is confidential information and we shouldn't be able to look at our user's password since that doesn't comply with a lot of policies. But I think you guys saw how easy it was to create this functioning backend by basically just typing two simple prompts in our Lovable interface. And now it's time that I also show you how you can go and integrate Stripe payments inside your app. We simply have to come over here in the Ask Lovable tab and tell it something like, hey, I want to integrate Stripe payments inside this app. Before a user is actually able to use it, he has to pay a fee of $10 and then he's able to use it. And then I will simply come over here and click on Enter. And boom, as you can see, Lovable is telling us that in order for us to enable Stripe for a one-time payment, we need to give it access to a Stripe API key. Now to find your Stripe API key, what you need to do is go over to stripe.com and sign into your account. And then you need to come over here at the bottom of the page and click on the Developers tab. And then simply come over here and click on API Keys. And then you will be brought in this interface over here. Now, all you have to do is to come over here and click on Create Secret Key. Then come over here and select the Building Your Own Integration option. And then come over here and click on Create a Secret Key. Now we simply need to give this a name. I will name it Key for this example. And then I will simply come over here and click on Create. And then your API key will appear over here. Now, obviously this is blurred, so you can access my Stripe API key, but you will be able to see it over here. So simply just copy it. And then you can come back over in your Lovable interface, simply paste in your Stripe API key inside this box, so it is safely stored. And then come over here, click on Submit. And boom, as you can see, it was inputted successfully. So now all we have to do is to simply come over here and select the option where we want to create a $10 payment gate. Simply come over here. You can select it or manually type it in. And then I will simply come over here and click on Enter. And as you can see, Lovable is asking us whether we are allowing it to create a brand new product and price in a Stripe account. So I will simply come over here and click on Allow, since that's what we actually want to do. And now it's going to go and create a product for us without us having to go and manually create it ourselves. And now it is simply asking us to allow it to modify the database. So make sure you click on Allow. And boom, as you can see, it says that it successfully managed to enable the $10 Stripe payment. So now if I actually come over here and fill in my login information, which I'm going to do right now, and click on sign in, I see this option that basically prompts me to first pay and then I'm able to use the app. So all I have to do is to come over here and click on proceed to payment. And as you can see, the Stripe dashboard pops up where I can come over here, fill in my card details, then come over here and click on pay, and then I will be able to access the app. And of course, this money is immediately going to go inside your Stripe dashboard, where you can withdraw it in your business or personal bank account. So that is exactly how you can integrate Stripe payments into your AI SaaS. And if you want to learn how you can get actual users through your app and start making money with it, you can click the top link in the description and join my school community, where I have helped countless people just like you monetize apps that they have built with AI. And the best part is, if you join the community, I guarantee you that you're going to at least 5 or 10x your investment, or I'm going to give you all of your money back, guaranteed, which means that you have nothing to lose. So make sure you click the top link in the description and you come and join my school community, and I will be waiting for you inside. But also, YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video, in which I built a $1 million SaaS using just Lovable and n8n. So make sure you go and watch that next, and I will see you over there.